now proclaim Kamala Harris of the whorehouse Bannister, first of her skin color, queen of locking up black men, Heel's high protector of the intelligence kingdoms. Long may she reign. Long may she reign.
Welcome here to the David L. Gray Show, off code and unscripted on St. Dominic's Media. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Y'all gotta see this video. Oh my goodness. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. You know, we heard about the prophet Daniel, hounds of heaven. We heard about Daniel in the scriptures. We heard about Daniel when Daniel went into the lion's den. He was thrown into the lion's den. And God delivered him. God delivered him. He went into the lion's den and God saved him from the lion. I never heard about a man being thrown into the lion's den and just eat the damn lion. Donald Trump ate the damn lion. He cooked it. He barbecued it. He filleted it. He grilled it. He deep fried it. He ate the lion. I've never seen, you know, Donald Trump different. He's just different since he got shot in the ear. He just don't. Somebody get Donald Trump my shirt that says, "What would Jesus not do?" Jesus would not eat the lion. He would have mercy on the lion. Donald Trump had no mercy whatsoever on this woman. And oh my gosh. Y'all gotta watch this video. We just listen, it's over. We're not even flirting with this anymore. Let's get into it. This is David L. Gray Show, off code, unscripted on St. Dominic's Media. Let's go.
We use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in real time. You can access that feed on social media using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again, the hashtag is NABJFactCheck. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste it.
And let me set this up for you first. So Donald Trump, he goes to this thing. He decides voluntarily on his own to go to what was called the National Association for Black Journalists, their annual convention in Chicago. So he voluntarily goes there to their convention today in Chicago, Illinois, to be on this panel. And he's going to be interviewed here by a number of journalists. The lady in blue you see is Rachel Scott. She's from ABC. You got Harris Faulkner from Fox News there, and there's another woman there, Norfolk Kadia, some sort of moderator. So that's the setup. So he's at this convention, the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago, and he's about to be interviewed by these people here about. The conference was supposed to be about the most pressing issues facing the Black community. The most pressing issues facing the Black community. That's what the questions are supposed to be about. Let's see what happens.
Anytime. So let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
I have
that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question.
He's asking for a definition, like literally. And he said, give me a definition. She says, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's not a definition. Those are words, ma'am. And she calls herself a journalist. Those are terms. That's not a definition. He's asking, what does it mean? Maybe she doesn't know because she's 35. And honestly, that's just a little bit embarrassing because black people, you know, always getting accused of being late. Like we don't ever on time. I used to think it was a black people thing. You know, my grandma always said, you always got to be on time. You know, they always think black people are not on time. But the more I travel around the world, the more I understand that it's not black people. It's just like warm weather. The warmer the weather is, the more you're surrounded by water, the less interest you have on being in time. You're just not interested. If it's warm outside, there's water, there's just other things to do besides being on time, right? Now, here in Germany, I'm just amazed about the further north you get in Europe, the more people are on time. I think because it's cold, people want to just get in warm places. That's why they're on time. My coworker, he's always on time. He even comes back on time from his lunch break here in Germany. I had to teach him how to take a 1 hour lunch break, 2 hour lunch break. He didn't even know that thing existed. Like, what? I can take a longer lunch break? Yes, you're an adult. You can take longer lunch breaks, right? So it's a little bit embarrassing that they start 35 minutes late. But see, all he's asking is give me a definition to the question.
No, you have to define it. define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But
identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think,
that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we are divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr. President,
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 50.
So the reason why, so you guys can hear me. So the reason why the woman asked Donald Trump, like, sir, what's a black job? The reason why, because there was a meme going around since Donald Trump, he came out and said, in one of his debates or something like that, he's talking about black jobs. I think it's the debate what Donald Trump said. These illegal immigrants are taking black jobs. And so it's been this meme on Black Twitter and other places making fun of Donald Trump, making fun of this idea of black jobs. Now, you don't have to use much of your brain capacity to know what a black job is, or a Hispanic job, or Italian job. If your neighborhood is predominantly one thing, the people who work in that community tend to be the people from that community. So if the community is predominantly Hispanic, those are Hispanic jobs because you work in community. And if your community is the south side of Chicago or the east side of Baltimore, that's a black job or Arab job. You know, it's a bunch of Arabs work at a convenience store, right? So those are black jobs and Arab jobs in black communities. But these people, they act like they don't know what a black job is. Everyone knows what a black job is. There's a bunch of them on the south side of Chicago, right? So this is why she comes at him and says, Donald Trump, sir, what's a black job? And he doesn't even fall for it. Why? Because he eats lions for lunch. He's Donald Trump.
16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs, and frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jails. They're gang members in other countries. Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
True.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And
I kind of appreciate what Harris is saying there, but that's not true. It is pretty monolithic. Black women vote in the 99th percentile for Democrats. That's just a fact that everybody already knows. Black women vote 99% Democrat. It's not a secret. It's monolithic, and it's a shame. Nowhere else in the world do you see one group of people consistently vote for the last 80 years for one political party. It should be illegal. In every city, they're the reason why Democrats win. It's black women in these cities who keep these Democrats in power because they can't help themselves from always voting for Democrats in the 99th percentile. I don't even know if they should even have a right to vote anymore, because you shouldn't be allowed to do that for 80 years. Keep the same group in power because you're some sort of working on their plantation. You're a slave to their vote. That's just weird. I don't think people who vote for abortion should be able to vote either. I have some beliefs about who should vote or who shouldn't vote. If you think killing babies is normal behavior, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. And if you can't vote, if you're voting for the same people for 80 years and you're keeping them in power of the city, you shouldn't be voting. So Harris is being kind there. She's part of the 1% of black women who don't vote for Democrats. But let's be honest about this. Black women vote Democrat. Full stop.
this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms, when you look statistically. Yeah. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, you know, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's destroying the black community probably as much or more than any.
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw that. And he was losing very badly in the polls, and then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history. And his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, you know, let's keep going and maybe something happens the other way, they said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight, a prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing well. You say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole
That's
campaign
crazy.
was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward her. But ultimately, it's the same because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years. And they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. Whatever it may be, they don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President, can I ask you another question
Yes,
that is
and-
also impacting Black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a
I'm like, hold up. Why is everybody else's microphone working except for Harris's from Fox News? Like, I don't even think that's like an accident. The lady in blue, the lion that got ate up, hers works. This moderator in the middle, her mic works. Harris' microphone doesn't work. Trump can't hear her. I find that to be very, very interesting.
deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But
And
again, why would?
They're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now,
distinctions?
for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made it...
And all Trump is saying, he's not articulating it very well, but he was talking about how police officers should be protected from lawsuits and things like that just for doing their job. They should have some sort of legal protection, some sort of insurance like that from just be able to have the freedom to do their job and not have to fear that, hey, you know, if I do something that's perceived to be wrong, I'm going to be sued, I'm going to lose my job. And so this reticence, this hesitance on the part of police officers sometimes put their lives in danger. And so that's what he's trying to say.
An innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
You
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And you know, they have, the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision. And sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. You know, I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case. And I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents. And they ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Mr. President,
but they released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We covered you extensively, sir. I'd love to move over on to different topics.
I didn't notice you do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where
sir,
I have
if you
a
don't mind,
hostile judge.
We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics.
Excuse you, you're the one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator JD Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
So this is a question. The liberal media has spent a weird amount of time on JD Vance. It's like they don't have anything new to attack Trump on, so they're attacking his running mate. It's weird. We haven't really seen anything like this ever. I mean, they attacked Sarah Palin because they set her up in that interview, and they kind of went after her. But we never seen anybody spend this much time on a vice president after the nomination. But they keep going after. I think it's these leftists, these feminists who really feel that their emotions, their panties are really in a bunch because they're feeling some kind of way emotionally, because I guess JD Vance was talking about women who have cats instead of children. Those women who were able to have children, why come they aren't having children? How can they have cats, right? And I think he said it one time or something like that in his book or something. They keep making a big deal out of this. And so that's what she's talking about. You know, it's been a big thing in all the leftist talking circles.
He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate? And do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family-oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking about families here. He also says that people that don't have children should get less votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Is that your campaign
I think
position?
I'm speaking for him, too. He strongly believes in family. But I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been good, that that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just one last point, and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote.
I just don't like this lady's tone. I just don't like her tone. What's wrong with her tone? Right? It's just like she's like this, trying to pretend to be a lion, right? And she keeps getting eaten up by Trump. He keeps eating her up. Like, what's wrong with her tone? Like, why can't she like ask questions in a polite way without being so I don't know. It's just nasty the way she's coming at him. Right? I don't know.
Senator JD Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country, many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally, and they're taking the vote away from all of the people in this room that have been here a long time.
Then she says only people who are American citizens are allowed to vote. Like, she doesn't know what's going on in New York. She doesn't know what's going on in Arizona. She doesn't know what's going on in all these states that are giving these illegal immigrants the right to vote. She doesn't know about all these instances where illegal people in this country are voting, and because you don't need an ID to vote, and even register, and because ballots aren't really being verified before they're counted, it's like she's completely clueless. And of course, over there in their fact checking site, they're saying, "Oh, they were saying what she's saying. Oh, you got to be a citizen to vote." That's not even factual. That's not what's going on the ground in real time.
That have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happening. If I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that. So let's talk about JD Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him.
Oh my gosh.
Why did you choose JD Vance?
That's good. Good job, John.
Why did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing too. I know everybody out there can, but it's hard to hear.
I'll tell you why. I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman, and especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room, but you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit. He's a very smart guy without the benefit of having a family that has contacts, like a father that was well connected. He got into Yale Law School. He graduated in 2 years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with a difficult family situation, very difficult, with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the Law Journal. I mean, that's an amazing thing. He's a 4-year, he was in the military with great distinction for 4 years, got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually. Did public offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family, but he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States Senator. So he's a United States Senator. And so, Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days after that...
I cannot understand. Your microphone
I know,
is so
it is really hard for me to understand
it's just,
you too.
I can understand you perfectly.
Because she's closer.
I can understand you.
I'm happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
really
understand, Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
Are you asking a question?
what you're saying.
Trump is tearing up this whoever's in charge of audio video. He's destroying this. And this is supposed to be the Black Journalists Association in the city of Chicago. They can't get microphones together. This he's just eating this organization. Like, this just looks so unprofessional. It's like I have embarrassment by proxy. It's bad.
So what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke, you said some words that were prophetic because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring, you choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen, you said it twice. When you look at JD Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons of what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been. But you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in.
JD Vance?
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, well, I mean, my point
but
is
at least
here.
it was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what
You knew abortion was going to come up. I don't even know why abortion would come up. I find the whole, and Kamala Harris, she's running her whole campaign on abortion. I mean, she's literally running on abortion, off of killing babies. I mean, this is like the number one issue on her platform. She thinks she can get elected, and they may cheat her in, because you're looking at the polls now, and notice you keep hearing every day there's some poll. She's turning this state. They're going to really try to cheat her in, and I think the country is going to erupt if they do cheat her in, because she's going to have 90 days to campaign, and you tell me you have 90 days to campaign and you become president. That's just weird. But she's running on abortion, and that's not even a Black woman issue. This conversation was supposed to be about issues, the most pressing issues facing the Black community. Abortion is an issue, but it's not in this context. Abortion and abortion pill affects the most pressing issue in the Black community, because over 100 million babies are missing, human beings. About 100 million people in the population of Black America are missing because of abortion since 1973. That's the issue. And so I just find it's amazing to me how Black women seem to get caught up in white feminist issues. Abortion is a issue that concerns white feminist liberals. They're the ones who that's all they care about. That's all they've ever cared about, this so-called right to kill their baby. And yes, I find that, of course, we all know that Black women in the cities, they have a higher percentage rate, but numbers wise, it's these feminists. It's these people just want to have sex without consequences and want to pretend like they're men. But time and time again, somehow these this white feminist issue, they always drape black women into it. And that's not even their thing. Even like the whole Me Too movement, every issue that the white feminists want to have, they somehow get black women caught up into that. And that's not even their what concerns them. And so here we go again. They want to talk about abortion when that's not even something that even affects you, not positively, negatively, yes. And so, but here we go, time and time again.
JD Vance is saying.
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the death. They're allowing freedom, the death of a baby after the baby is born, based on the governor of Virginia. Based on the governor of Virginia, they're allowing the death of the baby after it's born. They're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats have denied.
I think they're right. And I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps. But the Republican Party, what we're doing.
And they can't help but just to fact check Donald Trump. Oh, sir, that's not true. That's illegal. Like, why do you care so much about defending child murder? Why is child murder the hill you want to die on? It's disgusting.
Is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservative, everybody wanted abortion brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it. Everybody
But the majority of Americans oppose Roe v. Wade being overturned.
They don't know about this. Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also. But if you take a look, right now they're doing, it's an amazing thing, out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say, Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit surprising to a lot of people. But the people are now voting, and it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on. And they're voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting. And it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Most people believe in the 3 exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions. But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody agrees to that. And they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside and then we decide what to do. Meaning, what do? We execute the baby. That's a radical, horrible position. And some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question about, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time, but if you win, you'll still be president at 82, which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you consider?
Most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history. The greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question. Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would make,
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated me.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir. Very rude. That wasn't a question. She didn't ask me a question. She gave a statement. That wasn't a question.
Trump is talking to people in the audience now. He's debating people in the audience. That is so funny.
I repeated your statement, sir, actually.
You said you would. You would.
Oh,
make
absolutely.
That decision
if I
to step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be sharp. I'll go a step further. I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea. And I took 2 of them and I aced them.
Well,
I took 2 of them. But let me ask.
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president. And I don't mean because they're 75 or 85. I think anybody running, I'd like to do it. People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation. We have the millions of people falling in. We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. What he has done to our country, and her too, what they've done to our country, she has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President.
I would love to do it.
And make it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to...
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
Mr. President,
Are you saying she wouldn't pass? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
To be clear, you don't think Harris...
How do you intend, and
she didn't pass her bar exam, and she didn't think she would pass it, and she didn't think she was going to ever pass it. And I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it.
She did pass it.
There's a man over here. I think he must work for
Mr.
her.
President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order.
Oh, here we go with the peaceful protest, largely peaceful protests on January 6th. This is like Christmas to them. Some people can't wait for Christmas. These people can't wait to talk about January 6th. Like, January 6th, January 6th.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack.
And I had no idea about this. What was this? I completely somehow missed that in the news websites I visit. There was something violent going on in D.C. where things got painted and people got hurt. What was that? I didn't even. That was news to me.
On the Capitol, you saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But, sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to the people that tried to burn
My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
Would
answer.
you pardon
What's
those
going to
people?
happen?
I mean, Trump is he's running down these whataboutisms. I mean, I usually tend to find a whataboutism argument really, really weak. Like, what about, you argue one thing, you're trying to focus on, this is the question, is A. And people say, well, what about B? What about C? They want to make an equivalent to A. I tend to find that weak, but I have to say, Trump is doing a marvelous job eating up another lion.
Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just
the Israel. Oh, okay.
Well, they were convicted by a very tough system. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle, how come nothing happened to them? How come the people
But, sir, we're talking about
his whataboutism game is strong. I have to say that.
people that were seen beating officers with flagpoles, dragging them down the stairs. They're on video. Have you seen that video, sir?
Oh, really? Well, they
You would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face who was protesting. They shot her in the face. You know, nobody died that day. You do know that. But people died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in Minneapolis. You know people died in Minneapolis. And nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people. But you went after the J6 people with a vengeance. And I'll tell you what about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look.
That whataboutism game, woo! I think it's usually weak, but Trump did a great job with a whataboutism argument. That was his cognitive ability is just on display here. I mean, Biden can never do that. In fact, Kamala Harris can never do that. Let's be honest. She would start laughing in the middle.
Nothing is perfect in life, but you have people from Minneapolis. You have people just from 5 days ago in Washington, D.C. They were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying. They were desecrating our monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them. And you can't have two systems of justice. That's why they went after me as a political opponent, because they felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that, and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before, and it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
What do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do? I close the border. And I do two things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming in. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. I want people to come into our country, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do I do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring interest rates down. I bring inflation way down so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy a ham sandwich again, so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now, people can't buy food. Your grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%, right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Mr. President, I think we are.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. But I'm against everybody having an electric car, okay? I'm very much against that. You have to be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car. But, you know, we have more liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country. I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs, and I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
Project 2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right, right when they're about to go off, Harris Faulkner says, like, she asks, what about Project 2025? You know, that's like, I'm kind of sad that, you know, these people are so unprofessional. They knew that a president of the United States is coming and they don't have their audio video equipment running. Because, you know, Project 2025, if you go down the street, ask any black liberal woman in the city, ask them like, hey, what is Project 2025? They'll be able to give you a whole paragraph about it. It's going to be 100% inaccurate. But Democrats have taken this thing called Project 2025, and it's one of those things. They never run on policy. They run on fear. And every 4 years, they find something to scare black women about. What was it in 2012? I don't know. You know, Romney's a racist or something. It's always racism. Trump is a racist. 2016, 2020, Trump is still a racist. Abortion. Now it's 2025, right? You know, Trump is still a racist, right? Now it's Project 2025. Be scared about that. It's not even, if you ask any black woman, like, have you looked at the Republican platform? Is anything from Project 2025 in that? Like, no, it's not. And so, but Democrats, Kamala Harris is just talking about it when she's in Atlanta twerking with Megan Thee Stallion, bringing up Project 2025 and abortion. That's it. Project 2025 and abortion. That's the whole thing. So I'm kind of sad Harris didn't get that question in, because I would like to hear Trump's answer to it. But yeah, that's
All right.
So
That's the
we'll
whole
leave
thing.
that is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump, for coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much. Great
Thank
honor.
you, Mr. President.
I mean, Trump is the dude. I mean, he went into a lion's den. He went into a hostile environment. You've never seen a Republican ever go talk to a black audience like this. Never. This has never happened. Republicans since Lincoln have tended, since Lincoln got assassinated, have completely avoided black Americans, completely avoided them. It's kind of like what Catholics do to Protestants. We just we don't even make an effort to go like really evangelize them, not as a whole institutional church. Just let them be Protestant. The same thing Republicans do to blacks. I'll let them be Democrat, not Trump. Trump goes in there. This isn't even his first time. I find that amazing. No one can ever say he hasn't tried to go in and win the vote. And here he is talking to the black women at this convention. And Branda had asked me, hey, well, why do black women vote in 99 percentile for 80 years for Republicans? And I think it really comes back to, I think, the failure of black men. I talked about this in my book, Traditional Black and Catholic. I think it comes down to black men. I don't think, for a host of reasons after integration, a lot of sabotage as well, and black men falling into that sabotage. I think far too many black women in the cities fell into a position by which the government became their husband, became their provider. And a lot of younger black women were raised by women who were in that situation. So the young black girls, they were raised in a house largely where daddy was the government. He provided the food stamps, he provided the money and that whole thing. So you have that segment, that percentage, that socioeconomic class of black people, where the black man just wasn't there. He wasn't provider. He wasn't father. He didn't take care of his business, right? And so black women, they vote for the man that's loyal to them. That's the government. That's Democrats. And then you have the other segment, the more bourgeoisie, the more middle class. And that's just really just indoctrination at colleges, the Marxism, what do you call that? It's like Marxism, but it's I don't know, it's a theological term for it. But you just basically Marxism, but you just have that indoctrination, because black women do go to college at a higher percentage level than black men. But all it is just indoctrination. It's not real education, it's indoctrination. So they get indoctrinated into this ideology that again, that Democrats are for blacks, Republicans are against them, and you need the government. The government is your solution. The government is your help. You need the government to lift you up. The government provides solutions. And so it's just really indoctrination. And that black women in both of those instances, the poor and the middle class and the bourgeoisie, get caught up into. So, and there's really no way to break it, really. And then you get the black men get caught up in that. You get the black men who are raised by the welfare mom. Again, his daddy is the government. And it tends to be the case that the black man who's raised by a single black woman, he's going to follow a woman for the rest of his life because he doesn't have a father, right? So he's going to real father. So he's going to follow women the rest of his life. So he get in a relationship with a black woman. And she really compels him to try to vote for the daddy, the government, Democrats. So it's just this cycle. But we're finding that more and more black men are really breaking free from that plantation. They're breaking free from the matriarchy. And the black community in the cities is matriarchal. Black women run everything: the schools, the banks, the churches. Everything is run by the black woman. It's completely matriarchal. And they just dominate all the men who didn't have a daddy. So it's just it's really a cycle that I don't know how you even begin to really break it. But I think as soon as Black men become stronger in those communities that are predominantly Black, and they destroy the matriarchy, and take back their leadership roles, that's the only thing that's going to fix it. So that's all I know about that. So let's get out of here, man. That was John B said, give a new meaning to who's your daddy. Yeah, and it comes down to just broken family, no father. Yeah, just Democrats is just the daddy. That's it. Man, I'm out of here, man. That was a funny video, man. God bless Trump, man. That was good on you. Good on you, Trump. That was a good one, man. I was so proud of him for going in there and doing this thing. Never seen anything like that one, man. All right, I'm out of here. Peace. God bless. See you guys in the next one. And remember, Jesus loves you and is there for you. And so live your life like salvation matters. God bless. Are running for president when they're campaigning in front of white people.
So what we want is for more young people to be supported and mentored in getting those skills at community colleges, at apprenticeships run by labor unions and businesses. Because we're going to have a lot of jobs from building infrastructure to coding, creating new apps. I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
And it is good to be here with so many leaders, including, of course, members of Congress, members of our administration, and our extraordinary athletes.
Versus when they're campaigning in front of Black people.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to Black people.
Okay. Is it working?
Yeah. We stronger together. We stronger together.
Thank you. Hello, Cleveland. What an incredible show. I just can't thank you all, and thanks to Jay-Z and Beyonce.
And if you want to keep on your mind, you Hey!
Thank you, everybody. Oh, it's good to be back in Georgia.
Why Democrats think Black people just all
To the lovely people of Wakanda, I know you will make the right choice. And as always, Wakanda forever.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for Kamala Harris, Trump, and you ain't Black,